Welcome to another session of Time with the Superintendent. Pleased this morning to have as my guest certainly a Wakefield favorite, a former resident, a former teacher, a former director of curriculum in the area of computers, and now the principal at the Dalbert and Montrose schools for the last 4 years. Good morning, Karen. Welcome.
Good morning.
Tomorrow is a big day in the town of Wakefield. We will present a facilities package to the community for their consideration. And the first phase of that program is to move forward with major additions and renovations at the Dalbert School, one of your schools. I'd like to talk with you this morning a little bit, Karen, about some of the educational advantages you see inherent in that plan. So could you perhaps share some of those with us?
Certainly. I'm very excited about the plan that is before the town tomorrow evening. I think the plan gives the town the opportunity to have a school that will have dedicated facilities for art, music, science, computers, conferencing with staff, students, parents. It will give a centralized library media center, fully equipped. It will give larger classrooms with separate tutorial spaces and a separate gym, separate eating facilities with on-site food preparation, and also areas for physical education within that gym, separate from the cafeteria as it is now used.
Certainly some of the additional advantages center around the issues of safety, air quality, bright lights, just some of the upgrades that we would see in a new building. One of the issues you talked about was certainly the advantage of having larger classrooms. How do you see larger classrooms certainly helping teachers do the kinds of things they need to do with young people?
Today's classrooms are very different than they were 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. Today's classrooms use center-based learning, where children are very active in the classroom. They move. They work in groups, they work in cooperative groups so that they develop teamwork. And this takes more space because children are not stationary in a seat or a desk as they were 25 years ago. The teachers do not stand at the front of a classroom and do lecture-type teaching. They move about the classroom, they work with smaller groups, they work individualized, and a larger classroom space allows for this type of teaching. It also will allow for room for more materials that are needed in today's classrooms. Children learn through hands-on learning in science and math especially, and this does take a lot more materials than we used to have with just straight book-type learning.
School committee has, as one of their goals for the last year, asked me and the leadership team to look at the issue of attempting to lower class size. It's almost interesting in the sense that we're asking for larger classroom spaces. At the same time, we're looking to lower class size. Certainly as an educator, a former teacher, talk with us a little bit about what you think are some of the advantages of a smaller class size. What will that help us do with kids?
Well, as I mentioned before, because much of the teaching is centered-based, this takes more room. But and as you say, it's sort of a paradox that you have a larger room but smaller classes. Children need the space to move around. Also, children today come to school with a very different and diverse lifestyles than we may have had years ago. And a lot of these needs need to be met within a classroom. They need to be met on educational basis. They also need to be met emotionally. So that a teacher can work with individual students. And to do this in very large classes is very difficult. A teacher needs to be able to touch base with each student on a continuum all the time, and that can be done in a small class. We're also aiming towards inclusion of all students in a regular classroom setting. In order to do this, the classes need to be smaller so the teacher can meet needs of special needs students as well as gifted students. And work with them. And then teachers also need to be able to meet the needs of your average, what you might consider your average student, and allow for him to learn at his best potential.
The previous program that we submitted to the community for their consideration back in January and resoundingly defeated called for 3 new elementary schools, with each of those schools having approximately 525 students. The new plan, based on surveying of the community, pushes forward with maintaining the so-called pre-existing 4 districts of the community. And so this plan presents a school at the Dahlberg that would include approximately 425 students. What do you see are some of the advantages, perhaps, of a school of 425 as opposed to maintaining the 7 or 8 or 9 current elementary schools that range anywhere from 125 students to 275 students? What do you think a school of 425 students will do for us?
I think most importantly, it will allow teachers to collaborate. In areas of curriculum, so that we are all on the same playing field instead of one school doing one type of curriculum and another school taking off in a different avenue. It will allow for departmentalization, especially in your upper grade levels where teachers may have specialties of interest in science or math. It will also allow us much better to match teaching and learning styles with student needs, so that teachers and students have the best opportunities for learning. There will also can be uniform curriculum follow-through vertically from kindergarten through grade 4 that sometimes gets chopped up in schools of only 1 or 2 classrooms. When you have 3 or 4 classrooms, this is much easier to follow through.
You've expressed concern, Karen, over the last several years to me of some of the difficulties with being the principal of 2 schools, being tugged between one school and the other. What do you see that you might be able to do as a principal of one school that you perhaps now are not able to do as you distribute responsibilities over 2 schools?
Well, I see myself as becoming hopefully more of an educational leader and working through areas of curriculum with the staff. I hopefully will be more accessible to parents and to students and staff. I can be there to experience the student success where sometimes I may be in the other building when something like that happens. And on the downside, I'm also there when issues arise that I may not be available right now. Presently, I can only spend half my time in each of the buildings, whereas now I could spend all of my time in one place and be available.
As you outlined in the beginning, one of the advantages of this particular program and the previous program that we presented was that we would have centralized libraries, that there would be a computer lab in the new school. There would be a science lab. As you think about your former role as a computer coordinator, what do you see that these schools will be able to offer in terms of the technology that we're proposing?
Well, as we move through the 90s and into the new century, technologies are arising every day, ones that we don't even know about. Right now we are extremely limited to our use of technologies in the elementary schools due to many factors, one being the age of the buildings and the electricity that is not available. The new building will afford us the opportunity for all the classrooms to be networked to a centralized library where children are able to access information. We are in the information age, and children need to be able to know how to retrieve that information. By having a dedicated computer lab, it will allow students to acquire the skills needed to solve problems through a computer, to use a computer as a tool for their learning. They will be able to have full group instruction in those early elements of computer literacy and keyboarding and identification of computer parts, and then move on to have computers in their classroom so that they can access them for many varied educational advantages.
Sure. You also mentioned in your introductory remarks about not only the individual classrooms being larger, but off those classrooms there would be special small tutorial spaces to meet some of the needs of inclusion. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean just special ed children. It means all kinds of other children who need individualized instruction. Those kinds of spaces have been included in this plan. And again, how do you see that supporting the kind of teaching that's coming, that's here and that is coming?
Our classrooms today are not one teacher and one group of students. Many educational people work within those classrooms. Specialists of all different areas, reading specialists, special needs, counselors, classroom teachers, tutors. And because many people are in a classroom, it's often difficult to co-teach constantly with all the people in the classroom. And when we do a lot of individual or group work, it's easier if a specialist is able to use a separate space to take a small group of students. And now this is not the pull-out model of the 70s and early 80s. This is to take groups of students that need special skills or are having difficulty in a particular skill. So a reading group teacher could take a group of students to a tutorial space to work on one particular skill. A classroom teacher could take a group of students while another teacher was working with the rest of the class. It just gives opportunities for space to be available, which is not available in the buildings currently.
The building also includes provision for separate gymnasium, cafeteria, small facility for drama, separate on-site kitchen facilities. How do you see that supporting a school of 425 students?
Well, currently with the small buildings we have, we use a room called an all-purpose room, which encompasses all these in one room. By having separate facilities, naturally scheduling becomes a lot better. Children are able to actually use a gym for the purpose it is used for. The physical education teachers are able to run a full physical education program. Currently, the program they have, although it be excellent, they have to keep in mind that the room is also used for lunches. It is also used for music, and there is a piano in the room, and there are lunch tables. Whereas now they'll be able to use a gym only for physical education. Same with music. A separate music room now can be used just for music. They can run a full music program with instruments and everything that is involved in a music program. The music teacher is then able to incorporate some drama into her music program, or the art teacher can, because we have those facilities now available. As far as the cafeteria, our lunches now are currently brought in from the high school. We can serve a much better quality food preparation and lunch than is currently served because it's prepared right on site.
Certainly, these facilities also become a resource beyond the school day, another gymnasium in the community to meet a very vigorous evening activity program, not only for children but for townspeople who want additional gymnasium facilities for all number of evening and late afternoon and summer programming. So this plan has something in it for everyone in the community. We've talked a lot about the inside of the building. Are there any parts of this program exterior to the building that you see will give you an educational advantage and certainly the young people of this community?
Well, our primary role naturally is education, but foremost in that education is safety. And the safety of the children is very, very important. And right now with the small schools, that is the concern. Not within the buildings, but sometimes outside. The new Dalbert moves the playground facilities to a part of the grounds that will be away from the street. Currently it is access to the driveway and right next to the street. It also gives a separate bus entrance and a separate entrance for walkers or dropping off of walking students. These will give an advantage to the safety component of the building, and I think that is a wonderful opportunity for us.
As we wind down our program, are there any other bits of wisdom that you would like to share with us as a parent and as an educator of what and how important this vote is to the town of Wakefield tomorrow?
Well, we have been working very hard for a long time to acquire the best educational opportunities for the children of Wakefield. I think the new Dalbert School gives that opportunity to the townspeople. And I think this is an affordable way to acquire the absolute best that we can offer to the townspeople and for the children for many years to come. And I think the new Dalbert School can benefit the entire community, not just the children within the school.
Again, the special town meeting, Thursday, November 7th, tomorrow night, 7:30, at the Galvin Middle School. We ask all of you to come out and give support to the young people of this town and the potential to meet their needs of the future. So thank you, Karen, for joining this morning, and good luck to us tomorrow with
Thank
the
you.
special town meeting.
Great.